The Anderson Township Zoning Commission meeting and hearing for Monday, June 22nd. So the first thing on the agenda is approval of agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Second item of the agenda for this evening is approval for minutes from March 23rd, which I'm not too sure if we have a quorum for that.
We do.
So make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from March 23rd, Anderson Township Zoning Commission meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from March 23rd.
Do we have a second?
Second. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The meeting minutes for March 23rd are approved. Next item is approval of minutes from the May 18th meeting. There, I believe we also have a quorum. Ms. Cook, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Maggio.
Catherine.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Ms., yes, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 18th?
Motion to approve.
All, second?
I'll second.
Anyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The meeting minutes from May 18th are approved. The last item currently on the agenda is a quasi-judicial hearing for case number 4-2015 PUD. Tonight, upon hearing this case, the floor for the commission hearing first will outline the procedures for the commission will follow in hearing and deciding this matter. Upon the zoning resolution, our decision is subject to appeal to the Board of Township Trustees and then to the Court of Common Pleas. As a result, we must employ different procedures from other cases that we typically present to the zoning commission. Because of this quasi-judicial proceedings, the commission will only receive evidence as to whether the application meets or does not meet the standards and criteria in the zoning resolution. We do not want to hear opinions, just facts. As a result, all persons presenting testimony before the commission, whether for or against the applicant's position, may only do so after being sworn in and being subject to cross-examination. The staff will present a summary of the application. The applicant will then present its case. The board members may ask questions of the staff and anyone who speaks on behalf of the applicant. If an attorney presents the case to the applicant, the attorney is not sworn in and is not considered to be a witness. As a result, the attorney's statements are not considered as evidence. Evidence only comes in through the statements, through the witnesses who testify before the commission after being sworn in. The burden is on the applicant to present evidence that the application satisfies the standards and criteria of the approval. After the applicant presents its case through its witnesses, all persons in the audience supporting the application will be permitted to testify, one at a time, after being recognized by the chair. When all persons supporting the application are finished, those opposed to the application will then be permitted to testify after being recognized by the chair. If anyone in opposition is represented by an attorney, that party will go first, followed by any members of the audience. As previously stated, all persons wishing to testify, whether for or against the application, may only do so after being sworn in. When testifying, each person from the audience must come forward to the podium and after being recognized, speak into the microphone and state their name, address, and any affiliation to the case. All persons testifying will be limited to 4 minutes unless a commission member requests that they be given additional time. All testimony is directed to the commission only. No comments or questions are to be directed to the applicant or anyone else in the audience. The commission will only hear new, non-repetitive evidence or questions. Should someone wish to show support of previous testimony, they may do so by following the testimony procedures and stating their support of previous testimony. Now, all persons who wish to give testimony this evening, please stand and raise your right hand and swear or affirm. Okay.
So anyone who's going to testify.
Anyone at all is going to testify, okay? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So, Paul, would you like to go over the staff summary?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant for Case 4, 2015 PUD is Dan Hinkle on behalf of Hinkle Homes of Distinction, who is also representing, or on behalf of the property owners. The location is at 2625 Newtown Road, and the zoning there is A residence. And again, the request is to approve a planned unit development application to allow for the land division of 3 lots for the construction of 3 new single-family homes. This is a CAGIS drawing of the site in question. To get you oriented, this is Newtown Road, and this is Bartle Road. This is Bartles Road. This is Turpin High School. So the property is in the vicinity of the intersection of Bartles and Newtown Road. There's approximately 40 feet of frontage on Newtown Road, which is not correct in your staff report. There's approximately 40 feet, not 64. The tract size is 2.891 acres. The topography, which you can, well, let's go back. The topography doesn't show on this map, but this area of the site is relatively flat, and then there is a steep grade toward the rear of the site in question. All of the surrounding zoning is A residence, which is single family with a minimum of 20,000 square foot lot sizes. And then all the surrounding uses are primarily single family. This property to the west is agriculturally used. And then, of course, across institutional for the Turpin High School and Mercer Elementary School. This is an aerial of the site in question. Again, the front portion of the lot is relatively flat and has been mowed recently. The rear portion of the lot is wooded. And you can see the homes in the direct vicinity. A single-family home here. These are accessory buildings to this home here. There are, you can see them better on this, there are other panhandles in the vicinity of this site, some of which have frontage on Newtown Road, some do not. But these are all houses and then accessory buildings behind them. And then there are single-family homes that front on Newtown Road. This subdivision here is Mercer's Point. This is the proposal, a land division for 3 lots. Sorry, got ahead of myself. A land division for 3 lots with 1 common private drive. Lot 1, 2, and 3, as they are labeled on the site plan. 2 of the lots would be approximately 34,000 square feet, and then the rear lot, this lot back here, would be approximately 58,000 square feet. And all of the lots are proposed to have a frontage of 13.33 feet on Newtown Road. The only history on this property, there was a zoning certificate issued in 2005, but the home was never constructed. So that's the only history on that. This is a PUD, and this is a residential PUD. So I wanted to read the purpose of a PUD, which is found in Article 4.1A of the Township Zoning Resolution. But the purpose is to encourage the efficient use of land and resources, promoting greater efficiency in public and utility services, orderly improvement of property in accordance with community plans, and encourage innovation in planning and building of all types of development without detriment to the neighboring properties. The PUD regulations are intended to permit property to be used in a manner or intensity not permitted as of right by the underlying district regulations. So the staff report is organized in order of first is the request compliant with the underlying zoning district. The minimum lot size in the A zoning district is 20,000 square feet. With a panhandle lot, the requirement is double that of that zoning district. So a panhandle lot would be required to have 40,000 square feet. And again, the applicant is proposing 2 lots at 34,000 and the larger one at 58,000. But averaging all 3 lots, they are a minimum of 40,000 if you're comparing that to a panhandle lot in the A zoning district. The second requirement that is not being met are the panhandles are required to be 20 feet in width, and the applicant is proposing 13.33 feet wide versus 20 feet. All the other setbacks, a front yard setback of 50 feet is required and is being met, 15 feet on the side and 35 in the rear, and all of that is being met with the proposed drawing in front of you. Also, with 3 or more lots, homes being accessed off of a private drive, there is a requirement that they have a front yard setback to the private drive, the edge of pavement of the private drive as well. And that is the sketch that was on your chair tonight, showing where the proposed private drive would be, and all the lots would be meeting that front yard setback. The second item is the proposal compliant with the comprehensive plan, the Anderson Township plan? And there are 3 different areas where staff feels that it is compliant: the housing and neighborhood section, the land use and development section, as well as the natural and environmental resources section. And let me go to the photos. I got ahead of myself. It's a little bit difficult with the site photos because it is over 2 acres and it's mainly grass or wooded, but the top 2 photos are looking at the flat portion of the site that we showed you on the aerial. The bottom picture here, this is the fence to the house to the north. This is the actual panhandle looking back out toward Newtown Road, and then these are just surrounding properties. And then these series of photos, this top left corner photo is standing on Newtown Road. Sorry, my computer's a little bit sensitive. Standing out on Newtown Road looking back toward the panhandle. The picture in the top right is the home to the north, or to the north of this site, and this is the circular driveway on the home to the north. The bottom left photo is looking on Newtown toward Clough, and then the bottom right again is looking at surrounding properties. So those are the sections we just went over. So staff's recommendation on this, in the zoning resolution, there are 14 findings to consider when reviewing plan unit development. So we'll kind of summarize these. The first one, the underlying zoning allows for a home to be built on 20,000 square feet. If they are panhandle lots, it's 40,000 square feet. So staff was, to be conservative, we were using the 40,000 square foot as the base. And with 3 lots, you are still meeting the underlying density of the zoning district for panhandle lots. There really isn't enough room to construct a public street. You need about 50 feet of width for right-of-way for a public street. With only 40 feet of frontage out onto Newtown, there's really not enough room to construct a public street that would truly allow for the density of 20,000 square foot lots. So in their staff's review, we were comparing this to the density for 40,000 square foot lots, which the applicant is meeting overall. We feel that it's consistent with the goals of the Board of Trustees outlined in the Anderson Township plan. It enables adequate protection of surrounding property and orderly coordinated improvement. This proposal was a little difficult to evaluate due to the nature of the surrounding development. You already have a series of panhandle lots to the north that are non-conforming in several aspects, and this proposal is really not that different than some of the surrounding development. So staff felt comfortable that the development would be consistent with the character of the surrounding area. In the placement of the homes, we felt that the applicant cited the homes, proposed sites in accordance where it would have minimal effect on surrounding properties. And then overall, protection, the goal of a PUD is to allow for efficient use of the site in order to protect the natural environment. That was one aspect of the application we didn't feel was being met with what was shown, but could be met if additional information was provided. Most specifically toward the rear portion of the site, it's very steep. There's also a sewer that bisects this site, a sanitary sewer line that bisects this site. So if more information is provided on how access to that rear lot was provided, as far as disturbance to the hillside and also disturbance of the trees, staff felt that this would be appropriate PUD. We're not aware of any scenic or historic features on the property. It's compatible again with visual and acoustical property of surrounding properties. Public open space was not proposed. However, it was suggested by the applicant, preservation of some of the trees on that back portion of the lot. Development is consistent with recommendations from Township, County, and state agencies. We still have not heard back from all agencies regarding this development, but that would be one of the conditions if the zoning commissioner is approving that we would suggest. So there are 6 suggested conditions. First of all, the variances. One would be a variance for 2 of the panhandle lots to be less than 40,000 square feet. The second variance would be for panhandles at a width of 13.33 feet versus 20 feet. And then the suggested conditions, if the zoning commission were to approve this, would be compliance with a site plan that was originally submitted as far as the layout of the building windows, a revised plan to accommodate any conditions imposed by the zoning commission, identifying a revised plan which was submitted late, but identified the front yard setback to the private drive. The Township Anderson Trails plan does not recommend a sidewalk in this vicinity, and a minor land division is not required to install a sidewalk along the street frontage. However, with the development of Mercer's Point, there was an agreement that in lieu of building sidewalks in that subdivision, a shared berm along Newtown Road be provided from Mercer's Point up to the sidewalk on at Bartles in Newtown that leads up to the 5 Mile Trail. So one of the suggested conditions is that not for the applicant to actually construct a sidewalk, but if that shared berm is on that side of the road, that an easement be made to allow that to happen. And then, again, a grading plan shall be submitted to assure minimal disturbance of the hillside in the back portion of the lot. And then number 6 is recommending a tree survey be undertaken to identify all trees 6 inches in diameter or greater and submitted with the PUD zoning compliance plan. Efforts shall be taken to preserve as many of these trees as possible. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions to staff starting at the part of it?
No.
Paul, I had 2 questions. You said in the neighborhood there's been some other panhandles.
Yes.
Did they come through the zoning commission or they predate?
Most of those predate the township regulations. Most of those homes are older homes prior to 1988 when the township has been regulating zoning.
Okay. Second question has to do with the, you said there's some agencies that hadn't responded yet. Do you see any risk? Which agencies, and is there risk associated with those?
Not necessarily risk. It would just be further, we used to route PUD plans like we did zone changes. We do not do that anymore. But it would be part of the applicant's due diligence when he moves, if this is approved at a conceptual level when they move forward. He has heard from MSD, I believe, and he's also been in contact with Public Works, Hamilton County Public Works.
But you have a list of...
Right. So these other agencies that would review the other issues like grading, stormwater runoff, Cincinnati Water Works, Township Fire and Rescue, as far as that back home, how far off it sits from. So there may be slight modifications to the plan once these other agencies review his conceptual layout.
Okay. That's all.
Do you know the front footage of the panhandle lots just to the north?
They range in size. Some are conforming at 20 feet and some are less.
Anything closer to the 13?
I think, actually, I thought I had put that in the staff report, because we did look at that. It was, I didn't put the actual measurements. I put on there, their panhandles to the immediate north are less than 20 feet. We measured them on the computer, and I can look at the, I can get you that dimension.
That's okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional questions of staff? At this time, will the applicant or the applicant's representative please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name, address, and affiliation, and present your case? Thank you.
I am Dan Henkel. I own and operate Henkel Homes and Distinctions. My address is 10751 Fallsington Court, and that's Cincinnati, Ohio, 45242. Where to start? You know what, I'll start with I think like the natural setting of the property and how it was viewed and how we look to really, I don't even want to say the word develop, but, you know, build these homes here. The site is kind of a natural setting in a way that the front half was mentioned. The home sites are basically, well, they're just there to be, well, how do I put that? It's a natural setting, okay. Addressing the square footage of each lot that was brought up to get into the back third lot, and that being at 58,000 square feet. That was done in such a way so that to preserve the contours of the ground and then the drainage swale that goes down through the back of that property. And so that's how we kind of came up with the square footages, where two of them were under and one of them was excessively large. To get into the back lot, lot number 2, there's been some discussion that's been brought up about how to handle that particular lot. And it's really the natural setting of that lot that I wanted to preserve. And also, does everybody have this? And just in a preliminary format, just kind of address the area of like if this particular footprint was to be built and what kind of clearing would have to take place. And then that also addressed with, you know, addressing the trees that are 6 inches or larger, what can stay and what might have to go. There's two swales that are back here in the back. One of them was identified as a swale, and it was brought up. I did talk to Hamilton County Soil and Water. This first one is just basically a drainage swale and doesn't carry in a lot of water, but the one in the back is the ephemeral stream that does carry and will flow more often during rain. And that's the one that was brought up, concerned about the Mott's property, about what will flow into their pond. And I did have a discussion with him about that, about controlling silt and silt runoff to preserve his pond. Back to the lot number 2, if you can see, like on the lower side, I have these lines where it points to where the silt control would take place. Below lot number 3, I have a silt, that's where one silt control would go into place. And that wraps around the south and the west side of lot number 3 as it's being constructed. And then on the south side of lot number 2, there's another silt control that would go in place there as well. And I do want to point out, too, that the nature of that lot, as I have pointed out, that is all undisturbed forest down below on that lower side of that. The intent is not to take anything out, basically punch a hole through the trees and to get up to this buildable site. The house does sit well up on the upper part of the lot by the contours. It has about 8 to 9 foot fall, which is, you know, typically built for a foundation that you can build into that hillside with minimal disturbance. Backing up to the other 2 lots, where I have, and this goes back to water control again, so if you look at lots 1 and 3, I have where it's highlighted as DS, and also on lot 2. Those are DS, those are the downspout controls for any other water runoff that would happen. Those 2 would be directed into the swale. This first stream, which is called the swale, is pointed out from Hamilton County, and that was also included in the packet from the Army Corps of Engineers. That particular swale, under the national permit, you know, you can disturb up to 300 feet of stream bed, but I won't be doing that. I'll just be dealing with that as like the stream crossing just to get the road over. We haven't worked through that detail as far as like how that access would happen. It could either be by bridge or it could be by culvert and road and sloping banks to make that happen. I could go back. Let's see. I'll talk a little bit more about the nature of the property. On the north side, as you saw within the photos, there are, and this again, I can refer back to the sketch, but there's a natural buffer on the north and the south side of the property, and that would remain really largely undisturbed. There's really no reason to get into that. Those are just side yards of those properties. Anything that would be disturbed, and I would think for whoever would want to build here, those buffers would want to be reestablished for their own privacy as well as the neighbors as well. I do have two areas that I have pointed out that I know that are identifiable screens right now, and that is on the east side of the property that abuts the other front property up on Newtown Road. Douglas, I have them identified. And then also this other property that is, I guess it's Fee, and that's to the south of the property, where that would be another, that's a bare piece that has to be buffered as well, and that goes along the private lane. The private lane right now we have proposed is a 16-foot wide driveway that comes down to, which you see, which we call a hammerhead, kind of a hammerhead cul-de-sac. We haven't had that completely designed yet, but that's mainly the service vehicles, turnaround, convenience for anybody that needs to get back in there. And then the rest of the roadway goes back at 12 feet. And then we really haven't talked any further about the private drive that goes back to lot number 2, just so, again, it minimizes the impact going back through the trees. Let's see. The sidewalk easement is another thing. I mean, that can happen at any time. If you, is there any plan to put sidewalks up there anytime soon?
So in the Anderson Trails plan, there's a plan to construct not necessarily an off-site sidewalk, but maybe an expanded berm from Mercer's Point
Okay.
up to, there's a sidewalk that's over here on this side of the road of Bartles. So the plan is to bring Mercer's Point and the properties on Newtown up to cross over to this sidewalk at some point. I'm not sure exactly where, to allow access up to the 5 Mile Trail.
I see.
So if it's an off-site sidewalk, or I shouldn't say off-site, but a sidewalk or a expanded berm to allow for striping along the road with an expanded berm for pedestrian access alongside the road. So,
Okay.
and we're still undecided on which side of the street it would actually be on, if it would be on the north side of Newtown or on the south side.
Okay.
It hasn't been engineered yet.
So you don't really necessarily need that easement granted right away?
Exactly.
It was- Okay. I don't really have much more. Maybe the dirt, that's another thing as far as like the disturbance of the ground and the changing of the existing ground. I mean, the majority of this dirt that would come from these sites will be hauled off. There's really not any place to fill, more or less. That also preserves lot number 2, so that you're not changing the contour of that land in the back much. And again, there'll be some backfilling and there'll be some grading to help control some of the dirt and some of the drainage, that is. But I see the majority of this dirt being hauled off-site. Here's another thing. On the colored plan as well, the little squiggly lines that are highlighted in blue, those are how I would like to try to plan and control the water to keep it moving and off-site and not disturb neighbors as well. So basically, I have the majority of the water from the private lane will go east to west and should work its way out to Newtown Road and then just go down the drainage swale that's out there now. Same way with, well, both sides of the 16-foot driveway on the panhandle. The side that would be the west side of Lot 3, that will just flow down, of course, down into the swale. And the same way with the east side of Lot number 2, will just flow down into the swale. The market, that, and one thing too to make clear too is I'll be the builder and developing them, so I'll be putting this in myself. There won't be anybody else involved. But the target for this is about $650 and up. It's the game plan for that market. You have any questions?
that complete your presentation? Okay.
I'd say for the most part.
Anyone from the commission have questions of the applicant? Start.
Did I understand that you said that the drive for lot number 2 has not been fully designed yet? Or did I misunderstand that?
It's not been fully designed yet. It needs to be looked at, but as the engineer laid this roadway in against those contours, he laid those in such a way so that he could run down the hill and then come, I don't know if you can really see that, but it's been given us some preliminary thought, how to get down the hill and then cross the swale and then back over again.
Okay, so there would be a need for retaining walls along there also? I'm just looking at the topography, and I'm just curious.
Possibly. It could be a retaining wall, maybe on the downstream.
Right.
If it was built that way, it would be built in a way with maybe there would be a head wall, retaining wall on the front side through a culvert pipe, and then, and then the bridge over the top of it. There has been some discussion about piering and using Flexipore, which is precast concrete, building a bridge, and then that completely eliminates disturbing the stream at all. And you can change your elevation and bridge at a different elevation as well. And again, things like that will be followed up on the final plan and the grading plan as well, and the utilities.
Okay, thank you.
No questions.
Is the plan to do all 3 at the same time?
Yes.
And what is the start to finish duration for construction?
Custom homes, can run 6 to 9 months apiece, and of course, we'd like to have buyers come up to the plate as well, but, I'd say like a year and a half out at the most, maybe 2, depending on weather conditions, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
No questions?
I have a couple questions for you. As far as the limits of construction around each one, how far of a buffer are you going to clear to build each house, especially lot number 2?
Lot number 2, that one is tricky, but I would like to keep that to a minimum of maybe like a loader width, which would be like 12 feet, 15 feet at the most.
And would that be
That's enough to lay
clearly,
your dirt off on the side.
and would those limits be clearly defined on any future development plans that would be submitted to staff for review?
Yeah, and I think also, too, it can be more clearly defined once the footprint of the house is designed as well. And what, and where the exact placement of the garage would be located. We use this in the scenario in such a way so that you would actually have a garage inside the main footprint of the house without building a garage outside, which, enlarges that box and then causes more disturbance of the ground. So that's why you see a garage under. Well, it's a garage under in this scenario.
Are there any detention sort of measures being considered for the downspouts to maintain the existing rate of discharge through that swale and stream?
We had the discussion, that will show up on the plan when I talk to Hamilton County Soil and Water. I can detain in that swale, in the first swale. They
And that-
prefer to leave the femoral stream in the back untouched.
Okay. Are there any plans to put covenants and restrictions on the amount of land that the homeowner then can clear after they take
Yes,
possession?
yeah, yes, I would like to implement tight controls on what happens back there,
And is
Yeah,
that,
so-
that's something you're willing to have staff, work with you as far as how those are worded and
Sure.
make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
that it's defined on the parcels? We've had
Yeah.
cases before where people have cleared beyond what the PUD has said they've allowed to, and we just
I
want to
see.
make sure we do not create that same situation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I said before, is that, the buffering is the key back here, and anything that would get disturbed should be put back in place, and what that final design is, I'm not necessarily a big fan of just mounds with pine trees. I would like to see something a little bit different, but this type of housing in Byre, there will be a little bit of a different design that will come into the buffering effect of it. So, to answer your question, yes.
I think the last question I have is for your silt control Those will meet the standards of Hamilton County and also meet their review and approval on your final development plans?
Yes, yes, and they do come out and they inspect every 30 days. And they have guidelines that we have to follow. I didn't put anything inside the stream beds right now, because they need to tell me what needs to happen. This type of silt fencing up in here can be the black silt fencing. They've accepted ground mulch is a silting mechanism, and then also bales of straw. So those are a couple different that I can use during construction, but inside the silt fencing inside the beds, or I'm sorry, not the beds, but the streams will need to be identified by them.
That's the only questions I have at this time. Thank you. So now we'll take testimony from any persons in the audience who support the application. Remember, you must first be recognized by the chair. Come to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name, address, and any affiliation, and also you have to be sworn in previously. So anyone in favor of the application? Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Cook, just to answer your question, so the panhandles range in size from 10 feet that I found from the minimum. There is one lot that has no frontage, one lot 10 feet, the other is 15 feet, so they range in size.
Great.
So clearly state your name, address, and affiliation
I'm
to that.
Charlene Finkstag. I'm with Caldwell Banker West Shell. I live at 6648 Spindlewick Lane, 45230. I've been in real estate for over 40 years, and I've been part of new construction for over 30 years, and I want to testify to the type of home he builds. He builds nothing but an upscale home. He's a member of the Home Builder Association. He is very well qualified, and he built an excellent home. And I will be representing the project if it is approved. Any questions?
Any questions from the commission?
He builds nothing but the top quality home.
Thank you for your opinion. Anyone else would like to speak in favor of the applicant? Okay. We will now take testimony from those who are opposed to the application. Anyone speaking opposed? Okay, ma'am, you first? Yes. So clearly state your name, address, and any affiliation to the case after you get there. Yeah.
Lisa Slattery, 2655 Newtown Road. What else do I need to do? I'm a neighbor.
Okay, that's it.
Are you to the north?
2655 Newtown, the Slattery's, it's
It's to the north of the property. Thank you.
it's over
This-
there.
this
It's
one
over
here?
here.
Is that correct? Am I at the right one?
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
Our biggest concern is just the disturbance to the hillside. We, about 5 years ago, they came in and put in sewage in our property, and they had come in and done everything, and it even built up the hill. And in the time since they did it, the hill has kind of gone down, and it's even gone more down than what it was before the sewage came in. So we're concerned with this heavy machinery and with all the stuff going on down the hill, that the disturbance will make our part of our land really fall. And this would be for the house in the back, the house 2, I think is what it's called. So, I've never done this, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I just have a concern, and I'm expressing it.
And that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
So does anyone from the commission have any questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in, to oppose this? Yes, sir. So clearly state your name, address, and affiliation to the case, please.
I'm Richard Strauss. I have the properties to the south side, in the front. And I got to be honest about it, I'm a little disappointed that the groundwater in that part of the agency has not been informed yet, because the water that's coming between my two properties when it rains is enough to float a canoe on. It's probably 18 inches of water, so house number 3 is going to be my big concern. And then I hear Dan say that he's going to take the road water and the downspouts down and put it on Newtown Road. Now, the catch basin that sits in the front of 2579 Newtown Road was built by Anderson Township in 1987 because there was a 19-foot drop between 2579 and 2595 Newtown Road. So we filled a 19-foot drop in, probably 55 feet long, and Anderson Township was gracious enough to build that catch basin up that 19 feet. My biggest concern is if you're going to dump all that water from the lane, the downspouts, down the front, down Newtown Road, there's only one catch basin that's going to catch it, and that's the one sitting in front of my property, besides all the water that's coming between the two properties, because like he said, it's flat in the front, and then there's a swale. Well, guess where all that swale goes? Right between my two houses. That's exactly where it dumps out, and that's an enormous amount of water without taking into account what the soil is already absorbing now. Because my big question is, one of my questions is, how many square feet of roof do we have on the three houses? And then we're going to take that square footage away from the ground soil that absorbed the water, and now I've even got more water. Now, he said that some of the water is going to go to the back, but he also said all the lane water is going to head towards Newtown Road at the catch basin that may not be able to handle it. So it's a huge concern. The silt is absolutely not my top concern. It sounds like he has a handle on controlling the silt. If he's going to follow Hamilton County guidelines, I guess that's good enough. The water is a huge concern for me. I've not heard any proposals on how big the houses are and how many square feet of roof are that's going to take away from the ground absorption of the water that it's taking now. That really concerns me. Am I overreacting? I hope not. I hope not. The variances for the 13.3 feet versus the 20 feet, I understand that, you're taking an average of it. I understand that. That concerns me. I guess all I have to say is the water is a huge issue, and the proposal that I just heard him lay out doesn't make me any happier with all the water going down the lane to Newtown Road. Because that puts it at front of all of our properties. The water that naturally distributes through that field now. Do you have any questions for me?
Excuse me for being not quite getting, but where exactly is the catch basin now? I know you gave us house numbers, I'm sorry, I can't find it.
That's okay. I don't see it on your plans,
Okay.
to be honest about it. Yes. Yes, you're right down, it's about a foot off the road. So I don't know if that's it right there, if that little mark's it there or not.
I think that was.
This was just a conceptual plan, so it wouldn't have identified the catch basin. It's right here in the driveway around.
It's right around that mark.
I think it's that little square.
Yeah, the swale is significant, and of course, we couldn't obviously do anything between that because obviously we can't change the flow of water, which would be wrong anyway, but, I don't know how I could express any other way that it's not going to be good for me from a water standpoint in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have a question for staff. Is there another swale that's not indicated on the drawing?
Just a second.
I see the two swales already there.
I mean,
Is this gentleman talking about a third swale?
that's well through his property, I think, that you've got marked on your plan.
This right here?
Right there,
It is
yeah.
on there. It's not very big, but it's on there.
Okay. It's just not blue then?
Yeah. It's not blue.
Gotcha.
Does
Can
the
I make one
applicant
comment?
wish to rebut any testimony you heard from the two, or are there any more people opposed that would like to testify tonight? Okay. Now, would the applicant like
Yeah.
to rebut any of the testimony you
I
heard
would,
from them?
yeah, all the downspouts go into the first rear swale, and those drain all the way down into Motz's Lake down there. So there's no downspout water, and all the controls of the any water from the housing is supposed to go down into that swale. Anything that may come across, and you could look at it this way, and I hear what you're saying, I'll have to look further into that catch basin, but and you are probably getting a lot of surface water that runs off the top of that uncontrolled, off of this land right now, that runs right down into your property. And in essence, this private lane actually will dam all that, and that's what these lines do. They actually take it and they push surface drain.
They still send it to the front of the road, which puts it all in front of my property to a catch basin that may not be able to handle it.
Okay. So the private lane is meant to push any water that has been now coming from all these houses north of this property down over the top of you will now be pushed off and diverted and probably controlled. Now, I grant it, we'll look at the road closer, but there probably are some things that we would do that aren't identified here yet that would show up on a final plan that would address like rainwater runoff that would come off of. The biggest area I see would be like the hammerhead that's in the back, where Lot 1 and its driveway, the private lane come together. So I'm sure that I can control what I have going on, and we can always talk further about that. And I wasn't aware of you flooding out at all.
I mean, his pictures are beautiful, but they've taken no pictures when it rains, and we used to have a 12-foot john boat, and I can get the back of the property and get the john boat and ride it all the way to the road on the river that comes.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. There's that much water, so my concern is when we have those roots and the grass not there absorbing any of that water, now we have more water because the roof water of the house has to go somewhere.
Yeah, and that's the water that I'm diverting back into the swale. That is, I'm controlling and pushing that off into the back. If I was doing downspouts that were dumping on, that's why they intentionally went to the rear of the property, because if I did it any other way, I would be dumping downspout water on top of you. So that's probably, I mean, maybe some of the things that you're referring to, well, I'm not really sure where all your water's coming from. I mean, the site definitely is relatively flat and crowns off in a lot of different directions, so, maybe there's some other research that needs to be done to identify what you're talking about. And I'm not sure about, again, the catch basin, can
Yeah.
see what that's all about.
Well, Anderson Township built it in 1987.
Question for the applicant. You will meet all the Hamilton County regulations for stormwater control, detentions, all of that in your final development?
Yes, I'm required to do that.
And then where what you call the hammerhead sort of turnaround actually abuts the property line, how are you looking to handle drainage and any buffering at that location?
Yeah, he showed that right up against the property. I don't think that's accurate,
Okay.
to be honest with you. But it's, it comes into that area. I would have liked to seen it kind of like fish hook up a little bit closer to Lot 1, and not, again, give yourself, because what I want to try to maintain as much as the natural buffer as possible, and work with the contours, because it does slightly drop in that location, and I was going to drop it and pick it back up again. The roadway, that is.
The roadway, okay.
And water, for that matter.
Are there any further questions from the commission?
Can you address the concern about the sewer movement of the property that's directly north?
Yeah, I don't, well, it's a deep sewer. I do know that. It's like 16 feet deep in some places, so you might have seen some settlement. Again, I'm not aware of what you're experiencing back there, but anything that I would do that, the swale actually kind of creates a demarcation line as far as like me disturbing any of your hillside, but I'm not on your, I mean, I wouldn't be affecting anything of, doesn't appear to be affecting anything of what's going on or what you're experiencing right now. Where's your slippage taking place?
It's from where the fence is on down, and they took it all the way over into where you're looking at and where we're at, and the neighbors over here, where they came and rebuilt it. They came in and put the sewage in, or sewers in, and then they rebuilt it up. And since they rebuilt it, it has slowly fallen down, and it's probably down further than what it was when it was, before the sewage came in.
Where the manhole sticks out? You know where that manhole sticks out of the ground?
When they first did it, it covered the manholes, and now you can see most of it.
Is that right? Interesting. I mean, I didn't see any slippage as I walked down the slope into the hillside. I mean, all the trees and everything where the embankment is as you walk back into that lot too, which would be just,
Because it's before the trees, it's after like where the fence is, before the trees in that area, they've taken it all and built it, you know, they came and put the sewage in.
Right.
And they rebuilt it up.
Yeah.
And it's since fallen down.
where the sewer excavation took place. Yeah, okay.
And its concern is with everything going on, it's going to keep the whole hillside.
I see. Well, I won't be disturbing any of that as far as lot number 2 goes. And I'm not really aware. I would really have to talk to MSD. Have you talked to MSD about that, at this at all? And?
Then you would say it's like, that's the way the land settles.
Okay. Thank you for that information, though.
Any other questions from the commission?
No questions.
I have one. Really, you're trying to maintain the existing grade at all possible, except for the immediate surroundings around each residence, and then also the drive to and from, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Hearing no further comments, and if there are no objections from the commission, I will close this public hearing on case number 4-2015 PUD Anderson. The commission will now take this case under consideration and deliberate either tonight or at an upcoming meeting whether to approve or disapprove this. And thank you all for your participation. Anyone who wishes to stay is welcome to stay and hear our deliberation, or you may leave. So, commission, discussion on the topic?
Paul, do you feel the condition that has been placed above the other agencies' requirements would satisfactorily take care of any water issues and look into the water going down Newtown Road for stormwater? Condition number 2.
You can strengthen that to say that, copies of all that be provided prior to the issuance of zoning certificates for the homes. Something of that nature, so that we would have the assurance that all agencies have approved,
With no further variance.
right,
Sure.
prior to issuance of us. There's a couple of things will happen. First, the land division would take place in dividing the property into 3 homes. The next step, after that's recorded, is the issuance of a zoning certificate for the home. And I think that's where most of the issue is going to come in, is to ensure that all the agencies have reviewed and approved, or at least conceptually.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
You mentioned, Jonathan, you're discussing covenants and restrictions, and do you feel like that's an additional condition if we consider approving this, that we should consider putting into place?
I think we should, based on previous, items in front of the commission, where people have questioned the amount of land that it hung on or then cleared, which was an addition, outside of the area previously approved by the PUD. I think it'd be a good recommendation to put into the conditions for approval. Any other discussion topics?
I would like to see the point number 4, the easement, have that called out that we do ask for that for the sidewalk or berm.
Yes. So anyone would like to make a motion on tonight's item?
I think I'm ready to make a motion.
Ms. Cook?
Make a motion to approve case 4-2015 with all 6 conditions suggested by staff, with the change of number 2, in addition requiring copies of all of the approvals from the other agencies prior to, and also adding to work with staff and putting in place covenants and restrictions for future clearing by future homeowners. In addition to that, approval of both variances for the site size and the panhandle front footage.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Could you call roll, please?
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio?
Yes.
Ms. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Russell?
Yes. Mr. Drury, is there anything on next month's at this time?
We do have a case, it's actually 2 cases in one that will be reviewed. It's a zone change for a property, it's the old beauty school property behind McDonald's. So it's a request for a zone change. There's a couple different zonings, E and C, retail to planned office for the construction of a medical office building. That is going to be heard by regional planning on July the 2nd, so they'll make a recommendation to you to be heard in July. The other aspect of that application is a substantial modification to the Asbury Woods Senior Apartments off of Asbury Road. A portion of their property is also being assembled for the medical office, so it would change the original development plan for that site. So it's really 2 cases in one. That's the only one we know of. There may be others once the deadline is here, but we know that's already been submitted for regional planning review on July the 2nd. So.
Anything else you want to address to the commission?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much.